I'd like to make a few comments.
Okay.
One of the things, I'm going to make some comments about one of our procedures on here. And I'm going to, over the years, I've mentioned this several times. As board members, we have three functions that we really do. We hire and fire the superintendent. We're in charge of fiscal responsibility. And the other one is policies, to review policies and approve those. But we don't approve the procedures. And since I've been here this 15 years, I will say that this district is probably in the best place that I've ever seen it. We have a great staff of leaders. Lori has hired some amazing people, and like I said, when I first came here, I used to call this North Korea because it seemed like, if you weren't here from here, you couldn't do nothing. But that's a whole other comment. But when it comes to the policies, each of us up here, I believe, are on some type of a committee. I'm on the policy review committee, and every once in a while, there's policies and procedures that, we get every month, we get several that we review. And, in there's usually Lori's in there, different directors are in there. And each time there's probably a director that is responsible for a policy and they bring it in because they've worked on it for quite a while. And this policy that I'm going to talk, or this procedure I'm going to talk about, is the gender inclusive schools. Now, for the policy review committee, we started working on this procedure about 6 months ago. And I will say, David has worked extremely hard on this procedure. And it's went through many renditions. However, I'm going to speak just for myself. No other board member up here. Just for myself. This is not a nobody up here has any input on these comments that I'm about to make. And so the thing about it is these policies, a lot of it is driven by laws that we have to live by. The legislators down there in Olympia, they pass these laws, and that's pretty much what we have to go by in these policies. WASDA, they make some policies up, and a lot of times we look at those policies, but we tweak them to how we like them here at Sumner a little bit. But a lot of times we accept the ones that WASDA puts out. But at other times, we do tweak them a little bit and make them policies how we like them. So on this specific procedure, one of the things that I'm going to say is I think every parent in the community should read this procedure. Everybody, this is one that is, in my 15 years, that has kind of really gotten to me a little bit. And so I would highly recommend that every parent read this procedure. A couple of the things that I'm going to talk about, and I'll just start out with it, is that I don't care what your orientation is. I had something the other day that I came across, and I'm just going to look at this so I can make sure I get at what I was going to say here. When it comes to this, this is how I look at this. A man is not a woman, and vice versa, a woman is not a man. One has the freedom to live their life as one wishes. But they should not have the right to infringe on the rights of others. And so, you know, again, I don't care what your LGBTQ or whatever that is, whatever you choose or whatever you identify as. But it should not interfere with the rights of others. So a couple of things here in this procedure. Basically, when a student comes to school and they identify as a transgender, you know, they're allowed to use whichever restroom they desire and or locker room. And one of the things about that is that, sure, we're going to provide other space for people to have their privacy. However, if that individual who identifies as a transgender desires to use the woman's locker room or the woman's bathroom, that's their choice. And I just have issues with that. I just can't accept that. One of my things on that is that if the transgender individual asserts his right or their right to use the bathroom, use the locker room, you know, what about the rights of the other individuals in there? Since I retired, I probably watched too much YouTube or read too much. The other day I saw a video of a young lady who was talking about being in a locker room and a male coming in the locker room. Of course, she didn't know this was going to happen. And the next thing you know, all these females are in the locker room, and here's a 6'4", 200-some pound man getting unclothed right next to all of them. And she talks about how traumatized, how awkward it is, how violated they felt. And so what I just don't understand, where are their rights? And so when I'm talking about all this, understand it is not the district that I have the problem with. The district has done everything that they possibly can. But they have to follow the laws from what the legislature puts out from Olympia. And I can't fathom that. And I really think that there's got to be a different way. And when this procedure talks about that accommodations are there for the individual, but if the individual chooses not to, they're going to use that restroom or their locker room. And so my question I wonder about is this: what happens when all the other females that are in those locker rooms or bathrooms says, well, I want my own privacy? What does the school district do then? If all of a sudden everybody in that locker room says, ooh, I want my own personal, I want privacy somewhere else. But you don't have that. So all these females that are in that locker room, what do they do then? Just pick up and leave? I mean, again, where is their right to feel safe, secure in their environment in the locker room? Because obviously that isn't what's about to happen. Again, the district is doing everything that they can. And David worked very hard on this. And the policy committee hashed it out for 6 months. But again, this is driven by the legislative people down in Olympia, and this is what we have to go by. So just, that's the way it is. I'm going to go through a few more things here. One of the other things that I can't get my head wrapped around is all the pronoun stuff. Again, when I was here 15 years ago, one time I was going to be like the teacher of the day. I don't know how that was called that, but I went to a classroom and followed a teacher around, maybe a different teacher, but I sat in that classroom and I thought it was total chaos. But the teacher, she had it under control, I guess. But I couldn't understand how she could do her job with everything that was going on. And I think it was a math class, and that's not one of my strong suits. However, I was watching all the other kids or the students, and some of them were really struggling, and other ones, they just kind of sat there. And I asked this one young girl, I said, how do you handle this and how do you learn anything? And she goes, well, you just try to block it out and you go along to get along. And I thought to myself, wow, that should never be like that. And sometimes I think about that as the same way with these pronoun stuff. And I just don't understand it. And I think a name is a name, and that's what you use when you're in school. But times are changed. And I guess I always call myself an old dinosaur. I'm down here extinct, but that's just the way it is for me. I have a hard time grasping these concepts. And so when I say that about, go along to get along, I always wonder how many of these students do that with this pronoun stuff just because they don't want to be picked on or something like that because they don't buy into it. So here they are just going along to get along. And then I think, all I ever hear of is more about the mental health problems we are having all around, in schools, society in general. But sometimes I wonder, is any of this kind of helped precipitate that? Because you got everybody in school using different, not their names, but pronouns for this. And, sometimes I wonder, well, maybe they just don't know who the heck they are anymore because of all the pressure to be all the other stuff. So I have a real hard time with this pronoun stuff, and I don't know that I'll ever be acceptive of it. Another issue that I'm just getting them all off my chest here tonight. I've never understood males playing female sports. So transgenders playing female sports. And the volleyball net for females sports is lower. Why is that? Well, because they're not going to be able to spike it over the males. Some can, I should not say that. There are some out there that got, but in general, you have a lower net for the females. There's a reason for it, probably genetics. But women shouldn't say it like that. But and then the other thing is that basketball. Isn't the women's basketball a little bit different than what the male basketball is that they play with? Okay. And so I can't grasp that issue about transgender males competing with the females. So, but probably the thing that really got me the most on all this was how I think parents have rights to know what's going on with their kids in school, students. With this procedure, if an individual comes to school, identifies as a transgender, and says, I'll use my name, and say the transgender's name was, say it was Rick. But when he comes to school, he identifies as a female, and the name is now Rose. So in school, he's going to be referred to as Rose. Now, and if I get this wrong, David, look at me and tell me I'm wrong. But what if the student does not want the parent to know that in school the name is Rose and not Rick? The school is not does not have the right to tell the parent. Now, everything they do at school goes under their what's that?
In their educational record.
Yeah, in their educational records. But if the educational record says the name is Rick, but when they're in school, they go by Rose, and they don't want the parent to know, the parent is not notified. And I think that parents have the right to know what is going on in the school with their children or their students, their kids, whatever. And so I think that I think it becomes that we teach and sometimes kids it's okay to be deceitful. And I have a problem with that, because do you take that on later in life that, well, okay, I got to do this when I was in school. I didn't have to tell the truth there. My parents thought I was Rick, school I'm Rose. They'll never know about it. Is that right? I don't think that's right. Again, I'm just going to say, nobody else on the board expresses these opinions. I'm expressing them. I don't think it's right, but the school district is doing everything they can to follow the law. So nobody should really have any complaints with the school district. The complaint has to be with the legislative body about how things should be. Because when, say, a freshman comes to school, she goes in the locker room, and the next thing is there's some senior, a couple lockers down, he's changing his clothes. What are her rights? Where does her right to feel safe, secure in her environment? And so hopefully I've expressed myself okay, but again, I think every parent needs to read the procedure or read the policy. And the complaint, again, is not with the district, it's with the legislative body down in Olympia. Because